So if you go on overtime, I can take you outside and beat you up, right?
Top 5 moments bosses got caught bullying employees. Have you ever considered what happens when an overly confident manager doesn't realize the new hire they're bossing around is actually the CEO in disguise? Spoiler, it usually ends with the cocky supervisor receiving a big lesson in humility. In this video, we'll look at 5 remarkable moments from Undercover Boss where top executives went undercover and ultimately confronted, and sometimes dismissed, their own managers for shocking behavior. 1. Checkers and Rallies, CEO Rick Silva shuts down a disrespectful manager. Let's begin with a memorable account from a Checkers drive-in located in Florida, where CEO Rick Silva disguised himself as Alex, a trainee, and discovered one of the most toxic supervisors ever shown on the series. This moment stood out in the worst possible way, as Rick, posing as a new recruit, stepped into a workplace defined by bullying, mistreatment, and a disturbing absence of respect. The general manager, known only as Stevens, ran the place as though it were his private kingdom. He barked orders endlessly, fostering a stressful and hostile vibe where nothing satisfied him. One of the earliest incidents that caught Rick's attention occurred at the fry station, where he was paired with an employee named Todd. As they worked, Stevens abruptly lashed out at Todd, ordering him to stop chatting and move faster.
No problem, sir. I have something down now.
What could have been a routine directive quickly spiraled into something more troubling. On top of the verbal outburst, Stevens crossed a major line. In an appalling moment of aggression, he actually threatened Todd with violence, saying he'd beat him if he didn't pick up the pace.
So if you go on overtime, I can take you outside and beat you up, right?
This wasn't a case of tough leadership, it was pure intimidation. Stevens genuinely seemed to think fear and threats were effective motivational tools, and worse, he was blatantly proud of it. Rick was taken aback by what he was witnessing. He'd gone undercover to gain insight into his company's daily operations, but nothing prepared him for the toxic culture Stevens had created. The staff looked terrified, demotivated, and stuck in a demoralizing cycle of fear. Under Stevens' rule, morale had clearly plummeted. Rick kept observing, trying to stay under the radar and maintain his disguise, but things were escalating quickly. This wasn't just poor management, it bordered on outright emotional abuse. As the shift continued, Stevens' behavior deteriorated even more. The breaking point came when he once again targeted Todd, this time berating him for taking out the trash. Still unaware that Rick was actually the CEO, Todd opened up to him about how deeply the abuse was affecting his well-being. He explained that he had to hold on to the job to help care for his mother, and that the constant harassment had reduced him to tears.
Why do you keep working for Checkers? Because I do it because I need to help my mom.
This confession was both gut-wrenching and infuriating for Rick. He realized this situation wasn't just about observing, it demanded immediate intervention. In what would go down as one of Undercover Boss's most iconic moments, Rick decided to end the charade. He confronted Stevens directly, asking, "What excuse is there to talk to people without being respectful?" It was a bold confrontation, but Rick had had enough. To his astonishment, Stevens saw nothing wrong with his approach. He defended his actions, insisting he hadn't been rude and that yelling was necessary to keep the store running.
Have to talk up. They will not listen to you unless they.
He even told Rick, still unaware he was the CEO, that anyone unable to endure his leadership didn't belong there. It was then Rick fully realized how deep the toxicity went and how unaware Stevens was of his own misconduct. Rick didn't hesitate to take control. He revealed himself, stating, "I'm Rick Silva, the CEO of Checkers and Rallies."
I'm CEO for this company.
Stevens' reaction was pure shock. It was like karma had finally caught up with him. Rick didn't sugarcoat anything. He told Stevens that his conduct was unacceptable and that it fell far below the leadership standards expected in the company.
Right now, you're not doing the job to our standard, and so you don't belong in that restaurant.
Then Rick made a dramatic and symbolic move. He ordered the location to close immediately during the dinner rush. "We're done. Shut it down," he declared, ending Stevens' authority at that site.
Here, right now, we're going to shut the restaurant down.
The staff was dismissed, and the store shut down for the evening. Rick made it known that his priority was employee well-being over profit. The team, previously suffering under Stevens' control, likely felt both vindicated and hopeful following Rick's strong stand. It was a powerful, jaw-dropping moment. Rick had essentially fired Stevens on the spot, or at least stripped him of his position in an incredibly public and unforgettable fashion. Later, Rick remarked that while Stevens hadn't endangered anyone physically, his tone and actions were too terse and simply not fit for leadership. The message was loud and clear: intimidation wouldn't be tolerated. 2. Hooters. CEO confronts a degrading contest. This following account comes from a widely discussed early episode involving Hooters CEO Kobe Brooks. Famous for its wings, beer, and the iconic Hooters girls in orange shorts, the brand has long walked a fine line when it comes to maintaining appropriate workplace standards. Yet even within that context, what Kobe discovered at one Texas location was beyond belief. This episode became reality TV legend when a Hooters manager turned his store into a frat house until the CEO stepped in. While working undercover, Kobe, going by the alias Scotty, encountered a Hooters manager known as Jimbo. Jimbo was a character, loud, bulky, and more of a party ringleader than a responsible supervisor.
Okay, makeup, is it on?
Yes.
She looks like a Hollywood starlet.
He snapped rubber bands at employees, made crude jokes, and worst of all, disrespected his all-female staff. He carried out unsettling uniform checks, basically ogling the servers, and spoke to them with open disregard. But the worst part was how he encouraged them during slow periods, with a humiliating contest to determine who got to clock out first. And what was this contest? Brace yourself, it was truly degrading.
Leave early today, cuts are gonna be on games. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Jimbo lined the women up and forced them to eat baked beans off plates without using their hands like animals in a timed race.
Who doesn't want to spend the rest of the afternoon with me?
The first woman to finish, with her face buried in beans and hands tied behind her, won the right to go home early. The others? They stayed longer. This occurred in full view of customers. The women were clearly uneasy, but seemed pressured to participate just for a chance to leave. One server even asked, "Do we really have to?" while wiping beans off her face. Watching from undercover, Kobe looked stunned, barely able to contain his anger on camera. After seeing this disturbing bean game, Kobe had to remove himself from the situation. When a CEO needs to walk away just to calm down, the issue is clearly serious. He was livid and genuinely ashamed of what he had seen. Later, he said the incident was inappropriate and he didn't want any association with it. The challenge, though, was that Hooters franchises are independently run, meaning Kobe didn't have the authority to directly terminate Jimbo. Instead, he took the most decisive action possible within his limits. Kobe took Jimbo aside for a stern private conversation, some of which wasn't shown on TV. He directly confronted him about the degrading game and his conduct in general. Jimbo initially defended his actions, claiming the game was lighthearted and something the women enjoyed, a statement that clashed completely with their visible discomfort. Kobe didn't accept the excuse. He firmly stated that such behavior was unacceptable. In the episode, we even see Kobe call the franchise owner to inform them of the issue.
The way he approached and interacted with the girls it's really not acceptable behavior.
Presumably, that owner dealt with the matter behind closed doors. In the end, Jimbo wasn't fired on the spot, but did face significant disciplinary measures. The show later revealed that he had adopted a more politically correct management style following corporate involvement. Kobe also used the episode to highlight positive examples, such as awarding a high-performing manager with a vacation, so things didn't end entirely on a sour note. Still, Jimbo's behavior became the unforgettable centerpiece. It stood as a clear warning to other managers engaging in unprofessional conduct. The CEO might be watching, and he won't hesitate to call you out publicly. 3. Buffalo Wings and Rings, bullying manager gets the boot. Our next outrageous story of management gone wrong comes from Season 7 of Undercover Boss, where Buffalo Wings and Rings CEO Nader Masade visited a franchise and encountered a manager who mistook bullying for leadership. Spoiler alert, it wasn't.
Got the scumbag gold chain, the thick nerd glasses, and the shiny bald head.
Undercover as a new employee named Pete, Nader entered one of his restaurants hoping to get first-hand experience. Instead, he met Wes, a kitchen manager who believed yelling and belittling staff were part of the job description. It didn't take long for Wes to boast about how fear kept his workers in check. That was genuinely his approach. Fear gets respect.
Fear equals respect. You're gonna have to rule with an iron fist.
He said it completely seriously to someone he assumed was a clueless new cook. And that was only the beginning. Wes spent the shift barking commands like a drill sergeant, mocking his team and throwing out insults.
High school kids. The average person that works back here, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, they're dumb.
He called them dumbasses and dismissed most of his kitchen crew as just a bunch of useless high school kids. Then, acting like someone unaware he was on national television, Wes said, "You can't ask dumb people to do smart things." Yes, that's an actual quote. Now imagine Nader Massadeh, a CEO deeply committed to teamwork and company culture, listening to this outrageous behavior while flipping burgers in disguise. You could practically see the frustration building. Wes wasn't merely firm or demanding, he was a straight-up tyrant and disturbingly proud of it. The mood in the kitchen was heavy, workers seemed anxious, and it was clear this wasn't a one-off bad day. This was the daily norm under Wes's rule. Nader held it together just long enough to finish his shift, but each insult and tirade pushed him closer to losing patience. As the day progressed, it became obvious that Wes didn't just lack people skills, he was creating an environment so harmful it could drive away the company's best employees. Nader didn't need more proof. Like other CEOs before him, he decided it was time to end the charade and confront the issue immediately, right there in the restaurant. With the entire kitchen crew watching, Nader pulled off his wig and glasses to reveal his real identity, the company's CEO.
The president and CEO, Buffalo Wings and Rings.
Okay.
Wes, who had just been loudly trashing his team, suddenly froze like a deer caught in headlights. One moment he was dominating the kitchen, the next he was realizing he'd been yelling at the person in charge of the entire brand. Nader didn't hold back. He looked Wes directly in the eyes and said, "I will not allow anybody to be bullied."
Not gonna allow anybody to be bullied.
It was sharp, heartfelt, and carried the weight of deep frustration. His voice quivered, his hands shook. This wasn't about being a tough manager, it was about violating the company's values. The moment was powerful. Employees who had stayed silent out of fear watched as their intimidating boss was held accountable in public. And Nader wasn't just making a point, he took decisive action. Since Wes worked for a franchise, Nader couldn't personally terminate him on the spot, but he wasn't going to let that stop him. He got in touch with the franchisee and insisted that Wes be removed. The owner agreed, and just like that, Wes was gone. One minute he was ruling the kitchen, the next he was heading out the back door. The sense of relief among the staff was clear, and TV audiences at home were cheering. For GSI Commerce, call center chaos, and a CEO's tough lesson, not every jaw-dropping moment on Undercover Boss takes place in a bustling fast food kitchen or on a chaotic sales floor. Sometimes the real drama unfolds in quieter, more unexpected locations, like a customer service call center, where Michael Rubin, CEO and founder of GSI Commerce, stepped into a very different kind of frontline environment. GSI Commerce, a company that provides e-commerce and order fulfillment services for major brands, relies heavily on its customer service team to keep clients happy. So when Rubin went undercover in one of the company's Florida-based call centers, he was hoping to get insight into how well the team handled consumer concerns. What he discovered instead was a customer service nightmare. Undercover as Joey, a supposed new trainee, Michael was paired with Danielle, a call center employee responsible for helping customers resolve order issues, ranging from damaged products to missed deliveries. From the outset, it was clear Danielle had a skewed understanding of what customer service meant. Rather than expressing empathy or aiming to solve problems, she proudly told Michael, "You have to show the customer who's boss." Her tone made it clear she saw her job as one of control and defense, not assistance or support. To demonstrate her philosophy in action, Danielle took a call from a customer whose item had arrived broken. The caller, understandably frustrated, asked for a $50 credit or refund. Instead of acknowledging the issue and attempting a resolution, Danielle immediately shut the request down with a curt response. "Nope, I can't give you a $50 credit immediately. The system won't allow it."
You're not letting me talk, so I can't help you,
Go
Elizabeth.
for it.
I'm sorry that you're having a hard time.
Honoring what the email.
She didn't try to offer alternatives, empathize with the customer, or escalate the matter to someone with more authority. Her tone was dismissive, her attitude cold. When the caller persisted, she doubled down on her unhelpful stance, making it clear that she had no interest in actually solving the problem. Michael, still in disguise, was stunned. As someone who built his company on service and trust, it was difficult for him to watch an employee act as if the customer was the problem rather than the priority. He later admitted that he was so disturbed by what he saw, he nearly broke character on the spot.
I didn't want to blow my cover, so she's actually getting lucky that the show is being filmed, because if she wasn't, she'd be walked out of here today.
However, Michael remained undercover until the end of the assignment. During the final reveal, he sat down with Danielle to address what he'd seen. She defended her actions by pointing to systemic limitations and said she'd only received 2 days of training. She also revealed she came from a collections background where tough talk is the norm. While Michael sympathized with the gaps in training, he also recognized that her attitude didn't reflect the company's values. Danielle wasn't fired, but she voluntarily stepped down from her escalation role and returned to a general call center position. It was a softer ending, focused on self-awareness and change, rather than dramatic termination, proof that sometimes a wake-up call is more powerful than a pink slip. 5. Retro Fitness, the rudest manager gets fired on TV. The final story presents one of the most shocking managers in the history of Undercover Boss at Retro Fitness, a gym franchise. In this instance, CEO Eric Casaburi went undercover at one of the franchise's gyms in New Jersey and witnessed a level of managerial misconduct that was nothing short of shocking. At the center of this debacle was Jacqueline, a front desk manager whose behavior was so extreme that she ended up being fired on the spot. A rarity in the show, as most managers aren't dismissed so immediately. Disguised as Barry, a supposed contestant on a fake reality show about second chances, Eric began observing Jacqueline's management at the gym's front desk. From the very start, there were multiple warning signs. Jacqueline paid little attention to her duties, and even less to the customers. Instead of engaging with the clients or managing the work, she spent much of her time on her phone, taking selfies and scrolling aimlessly through social media. When she did interact with Eric, who was there to learn and assist, she spent more time boasting about how easy her job was and how little effort she had to put in, rather than actually showing him the ropes.
Me, I'm just a front desk, so I just kind of sit here, say my heys, how are you?
If a gym member approached her with questions or needed help, Jacqueline either ignored them completely or snapped at them. Clearly, customer service was not her priority, and she showed little interest in fulfilling even the basic responsibilities of her role. As Eric continued to observe Jacqueline's behavior, things only got worse. Not only did she neglect her duties and disrespect the gym's members, but she also had an extremely negative attitude, regularly using foul language and displaying a complete lack of professionalism. One of the most disturbing moments occurred when Jacqueline loudly complained, "I am not a freight slave," while performing simple tasks like cleaning or helping with minor administrative duties.
I'm not a slave. I don't work for you.
This outburst made it clear that she felt these tasks were beneath her, even though they were part of her responsibilities as a manager. Furthermore, Jacqueline's attitude towards the gym members was appalling. She even stated, "Members are literally stupid," which reflected her complete lack of respect for the very people who kept the gym in business.
Members, they're literally stupid. They don't know anything.
She then went even further, smirking and saying, "With some people, I just want to punch them in the face sometimes," which was not only inappropriate, but entirely unprofessional.
I don't know what to do with some people. I just want to punch them in the face sometimes.
Eric quickly realized that Jacqueline wasn't taking her role seriously, and that her behavior wasn't just disrespectful, it was damaging to the gym's reputation. If she continued in her position, the gym could lose members, as her attitude was toxic and not in line with the company's standards. Something needed to be done immediately, as the situation was critical. Eric understood that he could not let this behavior continue, and he knew he had to act fast to prevent further harm to the business. When it was time for the final reveal, Eric was ready to confront Jacqueline. He took off his disguise, revealing his true identity as the CEO of Retro Fitness. Jacqueline's reaction was one of utter shock, as she had no idea that Barry was actually the head of the entire company. Despite being caught red-handed, Jacqueline did not apologize or express any remorse for her actions. Instead, she remained defiant and unemotional, which only added to the dramatic tension of the moment. Eric, with the franchise owner Bob by his side, immediately addressed Jacqueline's behavior. He made it clear that what she had been doing was completely unacceptable and was far below the standards Retro Fitness expected from its employees. Bob, who was the local gym owner, calmly informed Jacqueline that they could no longer continue working with her and that her behavior had led to her termination. Bob explained that her foul language, disrespectful attitude, and overall lack of professionalism had made it impossible for her to remain in the position. Even when confronted with the fact that she was being fired, Jacqueline remained defiant. She downplayed her use of foul language, dismissing it as a minor issue, and showed no regret for how she had treated both the customers and her colleagues. Her lack of accountability made the situation even more dramatic. As she scoffed, rolled her eyes, and muttered another expletive under her breath, it was clear that Jacqueline had no respect for authority or for the company's values. Eric and Bob stood firm in their decision, and Jacqueline stormed out, leaving the gym in a cloud of profanity and contempt. Jacqueline's firing was one of the most dramatic moments in Undercover Boss history. Not only were viewers shocked by her terrible behavior, but they were also stunned by the fact that she was fired immediately. That wraps up our deep dive into 5 unforgettable moments when undercover CEOs had to step in and confront some truly awful bosses, and in a few instances, challenging employees. These episodes highlight the significance of effective leadership, the importance of respect in the workplace, and the need for personal accountability. Each story emphasizes how unchecked behavior can severely affect a company's culture and reputation, and how those in charge must take immediate action to correct it. We're grateful you joined us for this eye-opening journey behind the scenes of some of the most shocking moments in business. Always keep in mind that a little bit of respect can go a long way, not just in your professional interactions, but in your personal life as well. Respect is a fundamental element of any positive relationship, whether it's with a colleague, a customer, or even your boss. And if you ever find yourself in a situation where your boss proposes something ridiculous, like a bean-eating contest or makes insulting remarks, you might want to consider sharing this video with them as a subtle reminder of what a real undercover moment looks like. It's a great way to underscore the importance of professionalism and mutual respect in any organization. Once again, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to stay updated so you won't miss the next captivating episode. We look forward to bringing you more stories filled with jaw-dropping twists and important lessons on leadership. Stay tuned for even more behind-the-scenes moments that will leave you thinking long after the credits roll.